Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Klaus. We're going to be interviewing our new superintendent. We're going to be asking him on a variety of subjects, such as his 3 biggest challenges here as superintendent in the AUSD community. We're also going to be asking him subjects about the stigma in mental health in our schools, along with bullying in the LGBTQ plus community. We're going to also ask him some of his successes and failures in his job life. You know, that's all. Well, we'll see you in the interview. Bye, guys. We're here with Dr. Frank Wells, Superintendent of Albany. And as you probably know, we also interviewed the last superintendent, which you'll probably see a link in the description later, or if you ever read the description. All right, shall we get started?
Absolutely.
All right, great. This may be the first time students and parents see you. What would you like to say?
First, I'd like to say hello to students and parents. And I think it's important for students and parents to get to know you and what you're about and your philosophy on education. A little bit about me, and I won't take much of the interview talking about me because I really think it's about our mission and putting kids first and kids first all the time. But I'm a Bay Area native, born and raised in a place you may have heard of called San Francisco. Oh, you may have heard of that place, yeah.
I may have.
In an area called Bayview, Hunters Point. I'm a product of the San Francisco Unified School District. And so that's my background and experience in terms of my K-12 experience. But I think what's important that parents know about me is that I'm unwavering in my commitment to put kids first, to do what's best for kids all the time. And I think that's critically important. I've been an administrator for about 22 years. And so I've been in the field for almost 30, and it just seems like, wow, what happened to all that time? And so I want to, share with parents about what I'm about in terms of education and my commitment to their kids and community. So I think that's critically important.
All right, great. That was actually one of the best answers I've had on a question. Let's see in how many episodes ever.
You're very kind. See, don't tell them how much I paid you to say that, though. You can't.
Of course not. All right. Next question. What is it about Albany that made you want to work here?
That one's a really good question. One, obviously, there was opportunity. But as I inquired before applying, I realized and started reflecting that Albany is a community that's very spirited, very resourceful, with a wonderful academic reputation. And so Albany have students who perform at a superior level academically. And I just thought it was an opportunity to come here and, one, continue to promote academic excellence, and two, deal with some of the critical issues that not discussed much, and that is the achievement gap. One of the most surprising things that I discovered in my research about Albany is pretty, I think, surprising to some of the members I talked to. I didn't realize that Albany had a 20% what we would call students of poverty, free and reduced lunch, which is a significant number. And so in addition to that, we have, unfortunately, what we call an achievement gap, meaning that there are a lot of kids who are performing at a high level, and then we have a significant population and subgroups that are not performing at all. And so how do we make sure we have all our kids have the opportunity and the resources to perform at the very highest level? And so it's an opportunity to come and address those kind of issues, to move Albany from being just a really, really, really good district to being a model district for the state of California.
I personally believe that with you in the superintendent chair, that'll definitely happen.
Well, that's my commitment, that's my mission. And this is not a job, it is a mission. And that's what makes it so enjoyable, because it's not a 9 to 5, it's a 24/7 commitment to our kids, because we're talking about our future. And this is an investment in our future.
What do you see as the 3 biggest challenges in AUSD?
There are a number of challenges in AUSD, hence opportunities. And so the way you look at challenges, we look at challenges as opportunities. Unfortunately, we have this big opportunity that I inherited, and we have what we call a budget crisis. we have a deficit, and we're deficit spending. And so one of the first order of business that we have to do immediately so that we can continue to provide the best education for our kids and really promote and make sure we have academic excellence is making sure we have a budget to support that. And so right now we're in the process of, one of the first things I did day one was meet with my CBO and call in some others so that we can put together what we call a budget stabilization plan so we can stabilize our district financially. Two, in addition to that, we want to be able to provide services to all kids. For example, what are we doing for our low-performing kids? What are we doing for our mid-range kids? And what are we doing for our high-performing kids? And are we doing the things we ought to do at the highest level to make sure our kids are in the best possible position to have great and bright futures? Third is about building relationships so that we have a teammanship approach, making sure that we're inclusive, collaborative, and transparent in everything we do. And what I mean by that, being inclusive, is making sure we have all of our key stakeholders giving input on all issues, meaning that we want to hear from our students, we want to hear from our parents, we want to hear from our teachers and our classified folks. And then what we want to do is do something that turns out to be very miraculous, and that is we want to roll up our sleeve as we begin to collaborate and work together. Now, something, Sammy, happens very magically when we start working together. We tear down the walls of misunderstanding and we build relationships. And you have to have good relationships because they're the foundation of any great work. And then transparent, so no one has to guess what we're doing, why we're doing, and where we're going, because we all know where we're going and we're going together. So those are the three you call challenges, I say wonderful opportunities for our district.
Great. You're definitely gonna be up there on the superintendents. I actually don't know any other superintendents.
Well, you know me.
Well, I know you and Val.
Good.
But that's it.
Yeah, we keep it that way because you're not going anywhere. We're keeping you here in Albany. We might introduce you to some just to so that we have a wonderful Sammy, but you're ours. You're a keeper.
Class, how will students be able to make an impact under your leadership?
I think students will make an impact under my leadership, our leadership, a teammanship approach, if you will, by having student voice. It's important that we include our students in all key decisions. And so under my leadership, students will have a voice. Just recently, right before I came on, we have 2 student board members. And they were grappling with the calendar and how it is at the high school, they can have semester break around holiday break so that they're not spending their holiday weeks studying, increasing their stress because they're under enough duress, if you will. And so their recommendation was to rearrange the high school schedule to have finals be done prior to the holiday break. Because of their voice, we're looking at how best to do that. Not 5 years from now, but immediately. And so we're excited about that, but that only came about through student voices because the decisions we make impact them. Shouldn't folks who are impacted by the decision have a voice? And shouldn't our students be valued and welcome and appreciated? And they are valued and appreciated by having a voice at a table that's pretty heavy and means something. And so under my leadership, students will be partners in providing an outstanding education to every kid.
Have you had any failures that you learned from that you can share?
I had quite a few failures. And failures, when you think about the light bulb and how many failures was in that process, there were many opportunities to learn, to develop mastery. I remember reading a Michael Jordan story about an interview he gave, and he talked about he became great because of all the failures he had, ranging from jump shooting to defense. And through those failures and time to reflect and adjust, he became better and developed mastery, which made him great. And so, like many folks, I take failures as an opportunity to learn. And so my early failures in my administration was a result of me being the kind of administrator I am now, much more masterful and skillful in my work because of my fortunate and unfortunate early failures. But learning that that's part of life, and how do you take those failures and make them opportunities. And so, and you have to have the courage to fail, because that means you really put forth an effort. And so how do you take that effort you put forth that didn't work, make some adjustments based on some reflection and input you get from others to make a more sound decision to increase your chances of being better and reduce your chances of failing again. But failure is part of life. The issue becomes how do we embrace it and use it to become better and to use it in a way where others can benefit from that.
There's some stigma for students around mental health. What can you do for students that could alleviate it?
I really appreciate that question, because historically it was a taboo question, and even today it's still somewhat taboo. And we have, ranging from family members to grown folks to our kids, who all have, on occasion, and sometimes on a regular basis, some mental challenges. And because it's not okay to talk about it yet, we suffer in silence. And I think the more we talk about it and raise the consciousness that it's sometimes a normal piece of our lives, and for some of us who can share our own stories about mental health and how we sought help or how we addressed it, becomes something more normalized. But not only having it more normalized, that we teach students as part of our curriculum that mental health is an issue for everyone, and that we have programs and services and people to address kids who may be feeling a certain way. I know last year, at the middle school, we had a lot of challenges that in the springtime it really became very clear. But yet we have services in place and ready to provide those kind of needed responses that would be more appropriate for kids. But the good news here, and one of my first acts of business, because I treat it like a health and safety, is that we hired just last week a mental health full-time person to be housed at Albany Middle School to help present that kind of curriculum to all kids and let them know in what we call our restoration room that people can walk in and discuss some concerns and challenges that they may have and get some support with family, for family and for individuals. And to raise the consciousness that mental health is something we all have to address. We all have our good days and our bad days where we don't feel so good and sad and things bother us. And that everybody at the school site needs to have a champion. Someone a kid can trust to go talk to about anything. And so we want to start a champion movement with adults and kids. And remove the stigma of mental health as being something taboo and we don't talk about and we gotta suffer by ourselves in silence should occur no more.
Well, I definitely agree with you. I do feel like the stigma should be completely gone. Mm-hmm. It's a subject that is very touchy for a lot of people because, as you said, it's still somewhat of a taboo. Mm-hmm. And I know it is. I'm going to a school where it's still considered a taboo. Mm-hmm. Where it's still considered something awkward. And it definitely needs to be fixed. And it should be part of the curriculum. Definitely should be. It should be part in every school's curriculum.
I agree with you, Sammy. And we need to acknowledge that in every walk of life, be it administration, be it with teachers, counselors, students, we all have our own mental challenges. And in my era, it was really a big taboo. somewhat now, but not as big as it was when I was growing up, where you suffered in silence. Here we are in the process of raising that consciousness. It's okay to let a friend know that you have issues, because we all go through stuff in life. And I think the more we have these kind of conversations, it becomes more of a normalcy, and it becomes normalized opposed to the taboo that impacts people in the greatest adverse way possible. And so it's something we're addressing right now and rolling out as we move into 2019-2020 school year.
There is bullying is a problem,
Mm-hmm.
and especially in the LGBTQ plus community. What can you do to help these students feel safe?
I think that's an interesting question, Sammy, because they say, what can you do to help this group of students feel safe? And I think the real question is, what can we do collectively to make sure all of our students are safe, especially those who've been identified as not being so safe? And I think it goes back to the original piece when if there's an issue, you be inclusive, collaborative, and transparent. And so you want to include the groups that are adversely impacted and hear from them. And then you want to have all of your key stakeholders come up with a problem resolution for addressing the unique and specific issue to Albany. In addition to that, globally here in Albany, we promote safe schools, whereby it's our responsibility to promote self-advocacy and that we stick up in terms of good citizenship, meaning that we protect each and every one of us. And so if someone sees something and that might not be right, or someone doing something inappropriate to someone else, we say something about it. And we say it in a safe way, not that another student have to go and address it, but they can go through their champion, whoever their teacher is, counselor, and say, hey, here's what I observed. And the adult would intervene and provide counseling and support for one, the culprit who committed the act, and that family, and also the potential victim. And that we're very aggressive in this. Now that's our response. Our proactiveness is about how we become inclusive of all folks from every walk of life, and making sure this is a warm, welcoming environment for all, because we would tolerate nothing less than that. And so these are kind of concepts that we as a team, meaning you, other student body members, our teachers, staff, and classified folks, will come up with ways in which to, one, be proactive and talk about, hey, in Albany, we're very inclusive. And this is how we are inclusive. And if we have a violation of that inclusiveness, we're very aggressive in addressing it. And that's part of having a safe environment. One, because people need to be safe, both physically and mentally, and two, you don't have any learning going on unless you have the right environment for that learning. And so they're connected, and they go hand in hand. But those are the things that we would do collectively, not an I, but a we. Me, I can only do so much, but we collectively can do very much.
Is it important to honor teachers?
What is really critical, Sammy, is that teachers are honored. We are both here because of a teacher, and you'll recognize that once you graduate and go off to college and establish your career or business, whatever. Once you reflect, you realize that you were well positioned, one, because of your parents, and two, because of a great teacher. And like myself, I told you where I grew up. Did you remember?
Yeah, that place called San Francisco.
That's
San Francisco.
You remember, you were listening. You're a great reporter, you listen. Good. And in the place called San Francisco, one of the most wonderful places in the world, they have areas that are not so wonderful, and I grew up in one of those areas. And back then, I grew up in a place called Bayview, Hunters Point, in the projects where the poor people grew up. And I was born to a teenage mother. And my mom eventually had 5 kids that she ended up raising by herself. And so I was a kid who was in 2nd grade. And I remember being bused across town, yanked from my classroom, bused across town because of the national desegregation rules, where they wanted to integrate the schools. So I went to a community a very wealthy community in San Francisco, and I was met with picket signs. They didn't want kids who looked like me. And so I think that was pretty traumatic for a young kid to be in a safe area and then go to a non-safe area. And I think I shut down. And let me tell you how a teacher helped me out with this situation. Fast forward, I became a teenager. And I had this wonderful teacher by the name of Mrs. Lee. Mrs. Lee was a hippie-like teacher, a wonderfully crazy person who accused me of two things after she first met me. She accused me of being smart, and then she accused me of being brilliant. Then she put her hand on my shoulder and whispered in my ear. And she said, "I know your secret." I'm like, this lady is crazier than I thought. She said, "I know you can't read." And I felt as if I disappointed her. And she put her hand on my shoulder and she said, "That's okay, baby. If you come after school, I promise you, I teach you how to read." I remember as a teenage boy learning the phonemic awareness, the sounds of the alphabet. And the most fascinating sound is when you put the P and H together, it sounded like Frank, my first name. But then next thing you know, I was reading level books. And after about 3 or 4 months, I became a reader. And so I'm here today in front of you because of an amazing teacher who resolved the issue about this teenage kid. What am I supposed to do? Oh, I'm a teacher. He needs to learn how to read. I'm going to teach him how to read. So he taught me how to read. And so fast forward, after high school, instead of going to UC Berkeley, I went to the United States Army. After the Army, I went to San Jose State. And I wanted to be a banker. Why did I want to be a banker? Because I wanted to be around money the rest of my life and never want for money. But it wasn't until my junior year, walking down the corridors at San Jose State, I started thinking about what I wanted to do with my life. How can I make meaning of it? And I thought of my teachers, especially the one by the name of Mrs. Lee, how she made a difference in so many of the kids' lives like myself. And I wanted to be like her, and that's why I joined the education rank. Do I think teachers should be honored? Every single day. Absolutely. Let me ask you this.
College level.
Sam, let me ask you this. Do you think teachers should be honored, and why? I take that back. That's an offline because you're interviewing me. I'm sorry.
Unless you want to answer it.
I'm going to answer it.
I look at that boss.
I
we
need to
flip
answer.
roles for a moment, just for this one question.
I need to answer this. I 100% agree that teachers need to be honored. They are one of the most important things, not just in America, not just in Albany, but in the world. All right, we ask all of our interviewees this question. What are you most proud of? This is one of the most important questions we got in our arsenal.
I think, being in the field for almost 30 years, there are a number of things that you begin to really appreciate. And I really don't know where to start, but I'm going to just go with one that's on the top of my head. I remember when I was a high school principal in Southern Cal, almost a decade and a half ago, of a large high school, about 3,000 students or so. And we had this one student who was struggling, fighting homelessness kind of issues and that kind of stuff. And we were able to intervene and make sure social services and the kid got to school every day. Fast forward, I went to take another high school principalship up north in Redwood City. And didn't think much about it, just was doing my job, a kid in need, so forth and so on. This particular kid came back and invited me to her college graduation here at UC Berkeley. That was moving and tear-jerking because the things you do today does impact tomorrow. And that little thing we did was a big thing to her and her family, and it got her stabilized and back on track and to be in a position to earn a UC Berkeley college degree. That's an anecdotal, but we have hundreds of those kind of stories throughout my career. And so what I'm most proud of is anytime we can take advantage of doing something for a kid that will make a difference in his or her life is what makes me most proud about the work we do. Because remember, earlier I said this is not a job. this is a mission. And when it's a mission, you never get tired. You get re-energized each and every day about the work. And so the work excites me and makes me proud.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much.
You know.